Spoiler alert. Let's say you decide to go see a movie with a friend. You buy your ticket and some popcorn and you sit down, and right before the movie starts, your friend leans over and tells you the ending of the movie. How would you react? I'm Russ Rapp, here bringing you new ways of seeing non-duality. So you're in this movie theater and your friend just told you what happens at the end of the movie. You're probably going to feel angry and upset because you spent this money and you invested your money and time. It's probably a 2 or 3 hour long movie, and you already know what's going to happen. And so as you're watching the movie, you see how the character's development, and you already know what's going to happen, so it takes that element of surprise away. And that's kind of how people react to non-duality, to know that, on some level your life is a story, and that you give life all the meaning that it has. And so people kind of react in similar ways of not wanting to hear that message. And I think a better example than just a movie is if you take the HBO series Game of Thrones. That takes place over 8 series, and so the whole show is you're trying to figure out who's going to sit on the Iron Throne at the end of the movie, or the TV show. And so if at the beginning of the series your friend does the same thing and tells you that will end up on the throne at the end of the series, you're probably going to be upset. But as you watch the show, you start to learn the characters, you start to feel for them, and really get into the movie, and you almost forget the fact that you're watching a show because you're so enraptured with the character lines and everything that's going on that you kind of forget that part of at the end of the movie that your friend told you about. And that's kind of how non-duality works. When you hear the messages, your mind will forget the fact that you understand that message. And so really it's kind of like this continual forgetting. And it's non-duality isn't necessarily analogous to knowing what's going to happen in the future or knowing this piece of information, because like Game of Thrones, it's so complex, there's so many pieces, there's no way you would know that. So the idea of non-duality is it's not so much that you're seeing the future, that you know what's going to happen. It's just this sense that you know who you are and what your being is. And so some people take that as this idea that, life is just a story, but that's not necessarily true either, because on the Game of Thrones show, the characters see themselves as living, breathing creatures. And so if you were to somehow warp into the show and say, hey, you're just a character in a TV series, they're not going to care, because that has no meaning for them in their lives. And so really what it comes down to is, if you think of it in those terms, the character in the story is the idea that their life is just a story, has no meaning, because they're in a way stuck in that story. They're still going to be characters in a TV show. And the idea of cause and effect still comes into play. But with non-duality, the message is that no matter what happens of consequence, really we're all still just that light emanating on the screen or illuminating your TV screen. And so whatever happens in the show, whatever happens in the movie, the idea of non-duality is that your nature, your being never changes. And so that's really the message of non-duality. So until this time next time, I bid you peace.